On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about the Wonder Years album from 2018 called Sister Cities. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Kayle.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We like metal and other kinds of music, and we like to talk about them too. And it's March, which means we're taking a look or giving a listen to some albums that are not metal.
Not necessarily metal.
Because we like all kinds of things.
We do.
We have varied tastes. Although mine are probably not as wide as I maybe would like them to be.
Right. Mine are wider than they used to be.
Yeah.
Because I'm old.
You're an old man.
I've had time to broaden my horizons.
There are things I know I am interested in and I like that I just have not given time to. Like, I know I enjoy a fair amount of like sort of modern folk music. I don't mind some of that. Right. You know, and I'd like to check out more artists in that sphere. But I just, you know, I think the only way you can really check out every genre of music and enjoy it in any amount of depth is if that is your job.
Sure.
If you are an Anthony Fantano type, yeah, you can go and listen to some brutal death metal, and then you can listen to a new trap album.
But see, I do that shit all the time.
I don't really. It's very limited to rock for me.
It helps me to appreciate the metal that I listen to more. It's like a palate cleanser, you know.
Yeah.
Once in a while, I just listened to that Brutal Truth album. Let's put on some James Taylor.
Yeah,
you know?
Let's listen to something else, I guess. I mean, I guess I've got like there are specific bands I have.
Sure.
Where I've got like Wolfpack that I like to listen to, you know, every once in a while and go on a real Wolfpack bender.
Sure.
And come out of the other end feeling refreshed and getting back into certain metal albums. And, you know, occasionally I'll do the same thing with like Glenn Hansard, who's a Irish folk sort of indie rock musician. I will do that sort of thing. So like I have certain artists and certain bands that are outside of the sort of loud rock sphere. But even then, like a lot of times my palate cleanser is just a different kind of rock where it'll usually be like post rock or something. Like I'm tired of listening to this death metal. Let's listen to some Explosions in the Sky.
Sure. But it's rock still.
Yeah, but it is still rock. So I tend to stay within that sphere very, very tightly.
Right. And I'm to pick the album for next week. And it's why the more I hear you say this, the more I'd like to lift you out of your comfort zone a little bit.
So what? I mean, we'll get to that at the end of the episode. I suppose we'll see what your.
I'm still not landed. There's about 10 different things I'm thinking of.
What you so many different things you can choose to force me out of my comfort zone. I mean, like at the time when I first heard it, like Gorguts was very far out of my comfort zone. Like Obscura was just sort of like I had listened to death metal at that point, and I'd listened to Obscura, and I had listened to progressive death metal at that point. Like I had been listening to Opeth and whatnot. Opeth and Gorguts are both called progressive death metal.
And are nothing alike.
Whatsoever. Like Obscura it turned my brain into fucking mush.
Like any good album should.
Yeah. So, I guess, you know, now it's an album. I was about to say now it's an album I really enjoy. I don't know if it is. It's an album that I intellectually know is extremely intricate and well written and is very important.
Yes.
And every once in a while, I like to listen to it. Sort of the same way that it's important for a person to like watch Schindler's List or something like that.
Which I've actually watched that multiple times, believe it or not. A lot of people can't.
It's not like Schindler's List, I think, is more rewatchable because, I mean, there's plenty of horrific things that happen, but like the ending is at the very least uplifting.
Yeah.
It's not like a movie like, what is it? Requiem for a Dream?
Yeah, that's really hard to watch.
Yeah, that one doesn't end well, does it?
No.
So
it's like most Aronofsky movies are really...
That one's harder to watch because you know how it ends and you know you're not going to get any comfort.
No.
Nothing's going to get better.
No.
So that's why, like, I think the first time I watched Dear Zachary, there's a documentary called Dear Zachary that is probably the piece of media I've watched that at least for non-fictional things has made me cry harder than anything else. I watched that and I was like, I never need to watch that again. That was amazing. I never need to watch it again.
And then you did.
And then I did because despite how horrible some of the things that happen in it are, at the end, you feel a little bit better. Like you definitely feel a little bit better. And there was a 10-minute short that came out a few years later, following up on some of the things that had been left hanging at the end of the documentary. And that felt really good to watch as well. So like, I know that ending and I know how the story continues. And so it feels a little bit, it doesn't feel as bad. You aren't left as miserable by the ending of it.
Right.
So that, one can rewatch. And I think Schindler's List is kind of the same way. It's emotionally devastating at the end, but it's not like, oh, fuck, Jesus Christ.
Like, what was the movie? It was an Italian movie. It was in Italian. The dude who was extremely happy to get his Academy Award and climbed over the audience. What?
I don't know.
Well, I'm forgetting the name of that movie. It's subtitled. And at the end, it's something happy, something where he and his son are living in Italy, and they are a Jewish family, and it's during the Holocaust, and they get herded off to a death camp, and he has to sort of paint the picture for his son the whole time that this is a game.
My God. And
he's painting this. It's a fun game. And spoiler alert, at the end, after his shenanigans at I can't remember what camp they were in. They lead him around a corner. And he's telling his son, I love you, son. You win the game. Congratulations, you won. And then you hear him get shot in the head.
Jesus Christ. Holy shit.
Yeah, it just rips your soul out. But it's a great movie.
I have to go take a thing away from my cat.
What is she eating?
That is a lanyard for something. I don't remember what.
And she seemed to be gripping it with her paw. That's pretty...
She had it on her front claw.
Oh, she doesn't have like opposable thumbs. She's not like the next generation. This cat will sire all the cats that take over the world because she has opposable thumbs.
Well, she has been fixed, but she did have 2 kittens before she got fixed. So yeah, that might still happen.
Sure.
No, she just hooked it with one of her front claws. And it remained hooked on one of her front claws, and so she was holding it up.
Yeah, so she wasn't necessarily happy about it. She's like, "Oh, this is a thing that happened."
Yeah, get off. That happens to her a lot. Earlier today, I have a canvas bag, like one of the ones that you would buy from like a grocery store, a reusable grocery bag, basically.
Right. Ones that are saving the world.
Yes. Yep. And I have it sitting around. The only thing that it ever gets used for is for her entertainment.
Sure.
That she will climb inside of and just sit inside and hide in.
Cats love to do that shit.
They absolutely do, and that's her favorite one. And she got it still has the handles on it.
Yeah.
And she walked out of the bag and got both of the handles caught on her. So she was just sort of dragging the bag around for a little bit. And then she just kind of sat down and like accepted her fate for about 10 minutes and just sat there with the handles of the bag wrapped around her until she finally made her way out.
I feel like your cat in some way is spiritually broken. I feel like
she's look, that's why she's perfect for me. She's a rescue. She's a little shy. She's but yeah, it's why she's a good fit. She's just,
like you're a rescue.
Sure. Yeah. But yeah, sometimes something like that happens to you, and you just gotta lay down and accept it for a little bit before you try to get out again.
Was she also an accidental litter?
God, I don't know about that. I don't know that part of her history. No, she does not have opposable thumbs.
Okay.
Thankfully, God help me if she had opposable thumbs.
Your door's being opened in the night.
Oh God.
Your bedroom door comes open. Meow.
Meow. Wake up. I want to play. It's 3 a.m. Wait, why are you talking? So what have you been up to since we last recorded?
See, what did I do? Oh, I started watching that. But speaking of Nazi movies.
You started watching Hunters.
Hunters, yeah. I mean, I started watching it and I thought, well, maybe my son sits there in the chair with his headphones on.
Yeah.
He can't hear what's being said. No, there's no point.
It doesn't matter that he can't hear.
There's no part of this I want him to watch.
It's a bit like The Boys.
Yeah.
Also an Amazon original.
I would love to watch that with the family, and nope.
Spoiler alert, in the second or third episode of The Boys, a man's head is crushed wide open while eating ass.
Yeah.
So that tells you what kind of show it is.
Not really PG-13.
Distinctly not PG-13. But yeah, I should start watching that. I've got my Amazon Prime and I've been looking for a show. I actually ended up rewatching Chernobyl over the weekend.
Yes.
Even though I don't have my HBO anymore, I really wanted to rewatch it. And they're like $18 for the season. And I was like, that's not bad.
It's a great show.
It's a great show. And I'm going to go back and rewatch it again sometime, because it's very rewatchable because it's only 6 episodes. So it's very, very easy to rewatch.
They're not going to make a season 2?
No, they're not going to make a season 2. They could make a show called 3 Mile.
Sure.
I'm sure it would be
different situation.
Yeah, it's a different situation and probably a much shorter miniseries. They could do a series called Fukushima
or Love Canal or
Love Canal.
Isn't Love Canal? No, it's the what is it called?
Let's just do.
It was an earlier before. It was way before Chernobyl. It was.
I was just thinking of 3 Mile Island.
Right. Yeah.
If they did Fukushima, you know, that one's still ongoing.
Sure.
It'd be weirder though to do for like an American director to make a series like that, even though it should be weird for an American director to make a series about Chernobyl with like British actors. It should be weird, but it wasn't. For some reason, it is weirder for someone to do that with Japan. Even if it's, it's
with
all
British actors.
Yeah. Even if we're all, people of Japanese descent, if they were all speaking English, it would not feel right. It would have to be something made in Japan, I think.
Yeah. Love Canal near Niagara Falls is a nice little working class.
Love Canal.
Yeah. And
that is the most unfortunate name.
21,000 tons of toxic industrial waste that happened to be buried underground in the 1940s.
Jesus.
Everybody's getting sick and they're wondering what's going on.
What's going on here? I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I do know that Craig Mazin, who is the writer, and I think he was just the writer. He might have directed a couple of episodes, but I think he was the writer for the most part. He is apparently working with HBO on a series on The Last of Us television series.
Like from the video game?
Yes. And so there's been lots of speculation about who should be cast as Joel and Ellie.
When does the Last of Us 2 come out? Is that out already?
Soon. It's got to be soon. This spring, I think. I keep on forgetting about The Last of Us 2 just because I feel like I'm not seeing anything about it, even though I know everyone's super excited.
Sure.
I never see anything about it
because there's 2 video games you see stuff about.
My entire feed is taken over by Doom Eternal stuff, which I'm fine with.
Yeah,
I've kept on playing Doom, but about The Last of Us series, a lot of people have been saying Nicola Coster-Waldau for Joel, which I think would be a really good fit. But I feel like they should give a decent shake to Troy Baker, who was the voice actor for Joel and did the performance capture. And he's about the right age, and he doesn't really.
He has both of his hands.
My only problem with Troy Baker is even though he is Joel. Like, he is Joel. My only problem with Troy Baker is he is just a little bit too pretty. Troy Baker is an extremely good looking man. Joel is kind of a rough guy. He's not ugly, but he's a very rough looking guy.
Sure. And
Troy Baker looks like a fucking elf. He's got the beard, but man, he's such a pretty boy. It's like, I can't see you physically as that. Whereas like Nicola Coster-Waldau, when he's got the stubble and whatnot, he looks kind of rugged.
He looks rough. He can look rough when he's clean shaven. He's fine.
Yeah.
Well, he's in his 50s now, right?
Yeah. So I think he would be an amazing fit. And then they were saying, Caitlin Dever. She was on Justified, which is a show I am very fond of. She was great on there. And she was most recently in a movie called Booksmart that was directed by Olivia Wilde. It was apparently fairly decent.
I need to finish watching Justified.
Justified is so good, man.
Yeah,
it's I love that show. It's great.
That's Timothy Oliphant and
Walton Goggins.
Yeah, Walton Goggins, who's brilliant in everything he does.
Who else is in? For one season, one of the main characters is Jim Beaver,
who's also excellent in everything he does.
A character actor I love to see pop up anywhere. I love Jim Beaver.
Sure.
And it was kind of great because you could tell there were certain episodes that were very clearly Deadwood reunion episodes. That it was like, oh, this person's on Justified because Tim was like, hey, what are you doing? You want to be on an episode? I miss you.
Aw.
So yeah, it was always nice to see that. It was like, hey, it's that guy from Deadwood. Because I started watching Justified immediately after I finished watching Deadwood. And it's like, oh shit, it's a whole bunch of the same actors.
They didn't bring back so I can't remember anybody's name tonight. There's something wrong with my brain or my kidney or whatever I store information in. And
your kidney brain.
Kidney brain. The main character, he was also in Game of Thrones.
Preacher. I know who you're talking about. I can't remember his name right now either, so that's fine.
Yeah,
but no, he was not on there. I feel like he would have been a little too expensive for an episode of Justified.
Potentially, yeah.
He commands HBO rates, not FX, not FX rates.
You don't feel like Timothy Oliphant commands a high price?
I mean, now he might. At the time, I don't think he did necessarily. Deadwood was kind of his first big series.
Sure.
And he was great in it, but now I think he commands that sort of price tag. Maybe I think speaking of while we haven't completely moved on from The Last of Us,
sure.
I think Timothy Oliphant would be a great Joel.
Sure.
And it would be great. It would be awesome if Caitlin Dever was Ellie, because then it would be a Justified reunion, because they kind of had that relationship in the show.
Sure.
She was this young girl that he was constantly getting out of trouble and taking care of in sort of a mildly antagonistic kind of way.
I didn't play the first game.
I haven't either. I have appreciated it from afar for such a long time. And I have a PlayStation now. So before I whenever the second game comes out, in the run up to that, I should look up when it comes out. In the run up to that, I might have to pick up the first Last of Us and play that.
So everybody says it's great.
Yeah, it's considered one of the greatest video games of all time, at least from a storytelling perspective. And the gameplay is not. I've never heard anything bad about the gameplay. But certainly from a games as art perspective, it is one of the greatest ever. That's what people say anyway. Over the weekend, I watched a movie called Annihilation.
Oh, sure.
Starring Natalie Portman and who else was in there? Oscar Isaac and Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Wow.
Who was at first, I thought, like really miscast because her character was really weird. She was supposed to be a psychiatrist, but she was really like aloof and unpleasant for reasons you find out later. I was like, really, this extremely deadpan and seemingly very unemotional and unempathetic woman is a psychiatrist. Really? Okay. Because she was kind of doing, the Jennifer Jason Leigh sort of Fry voice thing, the Fry
vocal fry
thing for a while, just like, sort of down here. And we went into the zone and we did that. Like, she was just so, it was like, really? You're okay. But then later on, you find out why she is that way. But
I've heard mixed reviews of this movie.
Yeah, it's, I thought it was fine. Mm-hmm. I didn't enjoy it immensely. I thought it was pretty good, though. It was really pretty to look at. Has a lot of very lofty concepts, a lot of psychological horror, body horror.
Cool.
A lot of, although it didn't quite deliver as hard on the body horror as I anticipated it would, which was both a blessing and a curse for me, because body horror is something that I find genuinely extremely disturbing. But it also is, that means it's more effective on me. And so in sort of the perverse way, it's more enjoyable because that's what horror movies are, is this thing genuinely elicits a reaction from you and you like it.
As the term you said earlier, stress porn.
Yeah. We were talking about the movies Good Time and Uncut Gems earlier today. And those directors have a penchant for making movies that are nonstop, just extremely stressful. It's just, an hour and a half of let's go. But yeah, I kind of want to watch Uncut Gems just because it's the first thing that Adam Sandler has done since the last time he decided to do a dramatic movie that seems interesting at all.
Well, he did that murder mystery on a boat thing. He and Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah, I don't think that was a dramatic product. I think that was one of his Happy Madison vacation movies.
God, I want to take a cruise. Think we can get paid for this? I think we can get paid for this.
Adam Sandler should go film a cruise movie now. Get coronavirus.
That's what I should have brought.
Oh, Corona, yeah. We got to be careful. We don't want to end up with Dos Equis virus next.
No, that'd be terrible. Modelo virus.
Yeah, Modelo virus. That would be bad. Whew. Oh, funny. Very funny. But more about Annihilation.
Sure.
Yeah, it was fine. The basic plot of the movie, it came out a couple years ago, by the way. The basic plot of the movie is there is this big sort of zone on the southern coast of the United States, centered around this national park that is sort of this swampland area, although there are also towns encompassed in this area.
So like Okefenokee, that sort of thing?
Sort of, yeah. It's like on the Gulf Coast. And it is centered around this lighthouse, and the border is this big shimmering area that looks like it's like iridescent, like an oil slick, basically.
Sure. But vertical.
It's vertical and going up into the air. And nobody who ever goes into the zone ever comes out.
And like her husband went in.
Yeah, her husband was a soldier, and unbeknownst to her, went into this. Nobody else knows about this zone, by the way. It's kept secret. Her husband went in, and then he was missing for a year, and then suddenly he showed up in her house completely unannounced, and she's like, "What the fuck? I thought you were dead." And so eventually she finds out about the thing and volunteers to go in herself because she is also a former soldier. She's also a biologist, so she has a very useful skill set. And she accompanies a team of 4 other women into the zone, and they discover all kinds of crazy, wacky shit that this zone is doing to the local wildlife.
Wow.
And it's neat. It's a neat movie. I think it's worth watching. It's not going to be the greatest thing you see this year, but it's
worth a spin.
Yeah, it's worth a spin. It's a decent flick.
Right.
It was directed by the same guy who made Ex Machina, which I thought was a
great movie.
Yeah, I thought was a far better movie.
Also with Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, also with Oscar.
Also with Oscar. Yeah.
Also with Oscar. He seems to have a thing for Oscar Isaac. So, which is fine because Oscar Isaac is great in pretty much everything he does. So yeah. So speaking of things that are great, want to talk about the album?
Sure.
So today we're talking about Sister Cities by the Wonder Years. If you are new to this podcast, or if you have not listened to our episode last year where I talk about the Wonder Years where I gush about the Wonder Years for hours and hours and hours. The Wonder Years is my favorite band, which is weird coming from a person who also really likes blood incantation and cattle decapitation.
Very different.
Yeah. The Wonder Years is, I think, by default my favorite band. They have made my favorite album, which we talked about last year, which is called The Greatest Generation.
Right.
And Sister Cities is their newest album. It came out in 2018, or at least their newest one if you don't count acoustic cover albums.
Sure.
Covering their own songs, I suppose, but acoustic albums nonetheless. And it is, The Wonder Years, if you don't know, is a pop punk, indie rock, general rock sort of band. They're kind of in that amorphous territory. But not
like the band Amorphous.
Not like the band Amorphous. Very different from the band Amorphous.
Yeah.
But yeah, they are sort of in this nebulous territory of rock.
Right.
Generally centered around punk. They've leaned more and more and more towards indie and emo as they've gotten older.
And I thought Fred Savage sounded really good on this album.
Fred Savage.
What?
Because the Wonder Years. Yeah, I get it. I got you. I got that reference. Yeah. Occasionally, I get references. Every once in a while.
Sure.
But yeah, they're from South Philadelphia, and they've been around since like 2007, I think. They made an album when they were still in college that was called Get Stoked on It, which I have never actually listened to all the way through. They're my favorite band. I have
it's
not
listened to that album is different.
That album is not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Their work for me really starts with an EP called what is it? Won't Be. Oh no.
Ian McShane.
Yeah, Ian. There we go. Hey, you remembered that, and I'll probably remember the name of this EP in about 20 minutes.
You send me a text at like 1 a.m.
Yeah. I can't remember what it's called. It's something like Won't Be Blank Forever, but I cannot remember what the adjective there is. But I really like that EP. They made an album called The Upsides, and then they really sort of lean into let's write an album about whatever author Dan is into at this moment with Suburbia. I've given you everything I've given you all and now I'm nothing, which was inspired heavily by the works of Allen Ginsberg. And also just their sort of experience with their hometown, and then Greatest Generation, so on and so forth. So this album came out in 2018 and is the result of Dan kind of reviewing all of their a whole bunch of pictures and journals that were taken and jotted down during their world tour after the album previous to this one, which was called No Closer to Heaven. They went on, a year-long world tour and just took pictures of everything, and Dan kept a journal.
Which I also listened to.
Yeah, because he thought that's the album.
Is that the album we're doing? No.
I don't think I was very clear last week.
You probably were. You were probably fine.
I don't remember.
I don't
remember either. But yeah, you listened to that one as well. What did you think of that album, by the way?
I loved it. It was good.
How much of it did you listen to the whole thing?
I didn't get through the whole thing. I ran out of time. I was going to finish listening to it, and I was telling you about it. Hey, I'm going to finish listening to the album. He said, that's not the album. Oh, shit. Okay.
And then you destroyed $100 worth of plates?
Yeah.
On accident?
Yep, that's what happened.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I was washing dishes because that's why I listen to music and wash dishes. And I set them all on our stove, and there was some like cutting boards and shit under there, and it was at an angle, and they're the kind of non-stick cutting boards. So everything went
shit.
Yeah.
Oh, God. That was some good Foley work, by the way.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
That was pretty good.
It's been my dream.
It was somewhere between ceramic shattering and the space shuttle launching, but I think we got the idea across.
Actually, believe it or not, that's actually the same thing.
Really? Yeah. I had no idea.
That's what they had to do to launch a space shuttle.
It's just crack a bunch of plates?
Yeah, they yell, Opa, and there's a space shuttle up.
I did not know that. So what went wrong with Challenger?
It was a teacup saucer. It was at a place.
It was the wrong one.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel bad about that.
Yeah. Well, it's been 34 years. So.
Yeah. I suppose is it not still too soon? In any case,
wait, no, that was. Okay, no, that wasn't the Challenger that went up in 86. What was the one that went up?
That was the Challenger.
Okay,
Columbia went up in 2004.
Right.
Columbia burned up on reentry.
Right. didn't make it home.
Yeah, I remember that. We were driving home from Bismarck, and I remember hearing about that on the radio. I was 8 years old. And I think that was trying to remember if that was before or after. I think it was 2004 anyway, because that was before or after we went to Kennedy Space Center.
Oh, wow.
That year in March. So I don't remember what month Columbia was in. I think it was in the summer. But yeah, we were at Kennedy Space Center that March. So that was sort of fresh in my memory and really weird.
So it was a big deal to you at the moment.
I suppose, yeah, because I had never, I had never had a tragedy like that. Like if you grew up in the 60s, fucking spaceships blew up every week.
Sure.
Growing up, it was like, yeah, the space shuttle goes up and it's fine. Like nothing ever happens. And then something happened. But anyway, yeah. So a lot of the lyrics sort of feature themes of travel.
Yes.
A lot of it is based around certain things that happened while they were away. One of the most important events that happened while they were away was I believe Dan's grandpa died, which is what the song Raining in Kyoto is about. It's the opening track.
Yeah, right. First track.
Talking about how he was half a world away while his grandfather was dying, and he was still half a world away when they were holding the funeral.
Just a note, speaking of the Wonder Years, right there at this moment, as we are speaking, the Wonder Years is playing in Denver.
Oh, hey. Let's go.
At this,
what are we doing? Let's go. Let's get out of here. The show won't be over in 14 hours, right?
Yeah, 7:00.
Okay. Denver, we can make it. We can make it.
Sure.
It just turned like 7:00 Mountain Time. So
energize.
Let's get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was a very important thing for Dan is, feeling very guilty about that, about being,
you couldn't be with him.
Yeah. Away from his family in the middle of this big, important thing. You can't cancel tour dates when you're at a band at their level.
Sure.
If you're a big, huge artist and you're afraid of catching coronavirus, sure, you can cancel tour dates. It's a little bit different when, you're a pop punk band from South Philly.
Yeah.
They are pretty successful. They are fairly, especially as non-established pop punk bands go these days. Like pop punk bands that are not Green Day or Blink 182. They're about as big as it gets.
Sure. But they still got to work to eat.
Yeah, but they still have to work to eat. Yeah. And so, they couldn't call it off, especially when you're in the middle of it. And a lot of the other songs are about just unity and the feeling of being international. The name of the album comes from they were stuck at a bus stop in Santiago, Chile, and they were looking around, and nearby there was signs basically displaying the city's international connections.
Oh, wow.
Santiago's like international connections through twin cities and sister city programs and stuff like that. And while they were sitting and waiting, I can't remember exactly what got them stuck there, but they couldn't go do some other show, and people were like, hey, do you want to go play a different one for us? And so they went and played for like 100 people who just showed up and were like, hey, you guys are kind of stuck here and you're not going to be making any money today. Set up a show really quick if you can, and we'll come to it and we'll pay. And 100 people showed up.
Nice.
And yeah, I don't know exactly where I'm going anymore, but
tell me about it.
Yeah, I have no idea where I'm going. What were your thoughts about this?
I enjoyed it, and as I was describing it to my wife, it's one of those things. If you heard it in the distance, you go pop punk band somewhere playing in the distance, and if you didn't notice, like, to use the D word again, but the dynamic, because they slow down and they get real, they go inside in a lot of places, but and until you actually just hear the lyrics.
Yeah.
That's kind of with any one of their albums, but
that's just the Wonder Years.
That's the Wonder Years.
This is probably their least like poppy album, and their most introspective. But even then at that, you kind of just listen to the instrumental and it's just like, oh, this is a rock song.
Right.
And then you add Dan Campbell and you get, oh shit.
Yeah.
Especially if you're paying attention. One of my favorite songs like that is It Must Get Lonely, which seems to be about, I don't know the exact story behind the song, but basically seems to be about kind of having to give up on a friend of yours whose life has taken the wrong course.
Sure.
And just saying, hey, I'm sorry, man. But or alternatively, being the last person left in a whole group of friends that kind of exploded in a sense of just being one of the lyrics there is describing being the last house left in what used to be a series of row homes on a completely empty street. And you're just the last row home. Both of the other, everything on either side has been torn down, which is really awkward looking on a row home.
Yeah.
Because you've just got those extremely thin walls on either side.
Is there a rocket going overhead? The hell is that?
The fuck?
Did a nuclear bomb just hit? Oh, that's somebody's goddamn truck.
Jesus Christ, that thing is loud. I just hear bass reverberating through the headphones. God damn.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's a fucking loud truck.
Is it going to space?
Apparently.
Make sure it throws enough plates down.
I mean, every action has a equal and opposite reaction.
Exactly.
So.
And that was yours.
And that was mine. It pushed me back.
It did. You
as it would.
Pinned up against
I'm just getting real distracted by that fucking truck.
I know, it's crazy.
That is very loud. But anyway.
He keeps
Boy,
revving.
Howdy.
Yeah, he's really revving it out there.
It was like 50 degrees out there, man. You don't need to warm anything up. Anyway, so do you think this album slaps?
Is it a slap? I don't know if it's a slap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I would call it a slap. I know I would call it good.
Yeah.
A good album, but I don't think it slaps.
I think there are certain things that slap. I think I'm struggling to remember the name of the song, and I don't have my phone on me. It is We Look Like Lightning. Like the last half of We Look Like Lightning.
Yeah.
Suddenly goes into like hardcore punk territory for a second. And it's like, oh, okay. And I think some of the riffs, I think Raining in Kyoto slaps.
Yeah.
As sad as that song is, it's got a very driving bass line to it. That I think that song slaps. But in general, I'd say no. The what I wrote down is sometimes.
Sometimes, like the final track, the Ocean Grew Hands. That is just such a build and such a
that I love that song. That is my spoiler alert. That is my favorite song.
Yeah, that's my favorite song as well.
The first time I listened to this album and heard that song, this was the last part of it they used as a teaser for the album, and I was like, I hadn't heard anything else, any other snippets of that song, because they released different singles, and I was like, what is this song that was in the teaser for the album? And then I was really excited and got to the last song. I was like, this has got to be it. And I listened to it, and it made me cry a lot the first time. It's hard to nail down why. I'm not entirely like. There was just something about it where I just started thinking about a lot of different things, and it's just, wow, that just like tears just started coming down. And they said essentially that song is the culmination of a song they've been trying to write for like 8 years. Like a song that they've been trying to write basically ever since like Greatest Generation. They've been trying to figure out how to do something like that. And apparently when when they practiced it for the first time after they had sort of figured everything out and they practiced it, they're like, holy shit, this is it. We finally did it.
Wow.
We finally wrote this song we've been trying to write. And yeah, it's a sort of a pretty slow sort of build up to a song, and then the end is just like this triumphant melody that keeps going up and up and up, and it finally ends, and it's just such a wonderful beautiful resolve. This is a very emotional album.
Yeah.
It's the Wonder Years, so you kind of expect, I kind of expect that from them.
Mm-hmm. How would you shorten the word emotional?
Emo, yeah. But yeah, I mean, Dan Campbell is kind of my go-to musician for songs that make me cry. So, because he also does Aaron West in the Roaring Twenties, which is much more specifically about being sad. So, but yeah, like I can rely on Dan Campbell to always make me feel things. But yeah, God, I love that last song. That's it's great stuff. So they had a Metacritic score on their Wikipedia page for once. Oh, I love it when that happens, when I don't have to look for reviews to aggregate.
Sure.
82 out of 100, which is
good.
Very, very normal. Very, very normal rating for what I would call a good album. Normally albums that I think are good end up in the 80s. So I think that's a solid score there. Like I said, my favorite song is "The Ocean Grew Hands to Hold Me." I think one of the reasons why it kind of made me cry is it made me think of the end of Moana, of all things, which is a movie I've only seen half of.
Really? I have it. I own it. I could loan it to you.
You could, yeah. Or I could re-up my Disney Plus for a little bit.
Yeah, you could do that too.
But it reminded me of the end of Moana for some reason, because literally the ocean like catches her and holds her at several points.
Right.
But like the spoilers for the end of Moana, by the way, the big angry volcano god is actually
Te Fiti.
Yeah, this beautiful sort of nature goddess island lady woman. And at the end, like they defeat the volcano thing, and then she transforms back into her normal self and has a very emotional moment with Moana. And for some reason, any time in fiction where I see a normal person who's trying really hard and a deity of some kind that recognizes like, wow, you tried really hard. I'm so proud of you. For some reason, that really like triggers the tears for me. I was watching it with my family like last Easter, or I think it was a couple years ago, and it was Easter, and that came on, and that scene started happening. I was like, I'm fine. What are you talking about? I'm not going to cry in front of my nephews. I don't know why I'm turning into Fat Albert. Hey.
And then Te Fiti goes, rocketing into space.
Yeah, with
Superman.
Oh God, yeah. Don't talk about the Iron Giant with me. I mean, we talked about the Iron Giant like last month on the podcast. So
we could just title this entire podcast "Shit That Makes Kayle Cry."
Yeah, basically. Yeah. I've said it a million times before, and I'll say it again. I'm a closeted emo kid. So that's pretending to be a metalhead. But one of my other favorite songs on this is a song that I actually have maybe listened to even more than "The Ocean Grew Hands to Hold Me." For whatever reason, just I kind of save Ocean a little bit as just like, this is my favorite thing.
I listened to it again. I re-listened to that song.
Yeah. I kind of save that and set it aside for like, I'll listen to this at special times. But Flowers Where Your Face Should Be. Oh, don't. Maybe that came out wrong.
Yeah, that's
before.
what she said. So.
But no, the song Flowers Where Your Face Should Be. I really like that song. That is the second sort of straight up love song that the Wonder Years have written. The first one was a song called You in January that they wrote for No Closer to Heaven. Another very important thing that happened between No Closer to Heaven and Sister Cities is Dan got married.
Sure.
And so both of those songs are about his wife. And specifically Flowers Where Your Face Should Be is about him sort of recognizing in all these people that he's seen across the world how similar they all are to him and his wife, and how their love is not any different from the love he has for his wife, and how that, connects him to her and connects them to everybody else. And it's a beautiful, gorgeous, gorgeous song. And I absolutely love it. A lot of great metaphors in that. Dan Campbell doesn't really use a lot of metaphors.
No, he
usually.
says things right out.
He's that is what makes him such a clever lyricist, is he doesn't necessarily have to rely on nebulous metaphors to get a message across. He finds the right words to say what he wants to say honestly. Not that there's anything wrong with using metaphorical lyrics, but there is something to be said for being straight, being upfront with it, right, while still managing to be clever about it, which I think is something that he excels at as a lyricist. There was a Hard Times article you sent to me last week, though, which is like, oh no, I just graduated with
a degree in English
with an English degree, and now I'm the lead lyricist for the Wonder Years. It's like I'd be angry if I didn't agree. Yeah, I adore Flowers Where Your Face Should Be. What was your favorite song? I think we might have gotten to that, but
yeah, I'm still gonna go with The Ocean Grew Hands to Hold Me.
Okay,
although the opening track is fucking rocking.
Raining in Kyoto is great.
Yeah.
One of the pieces of imagery I love in that song a lot is him holding a makeshift service for his grandfather, essentially at I think it's what is it Shintoism in Japan?
Shinto, yeah, or Taoism, or
I think it was,
so probably Shinto.
I think I remember reading in like album notes that it was specifically a Shintoist temple, right, that he went to, and there was sort of a monk there, kind of.
They do Buddhism as well.
Yeah, there was a monk kind of like wordlessly guiding him through what to do, because the guy didn't speak English and Dan doesn't speak Japanese, but it was sort of this understanding of like, hey, I'm really sad and I would like to do this thing. Can you help me? And sort of this connection of like, okay, I get it. I don't need to speak your language to understand what's happening to you. Let's figure this out. But that song is fucking rocking as hell. This is an album where I can pick a least favorite, sure, which is Pyramids of Salt.
The second track.
I think that it's a fine song. It's just not a very good Wonder Years song, I think, because it feels like it was specifically written to be a single.
That's a mark of a good album when you can pick the one you like the least.
Yeah. Is like I skip that song a lot just because I think the chorus is really boring. I think the buildup is fine. Like it's not a bad song. It's just it's not a song that has a lot of things in it that I like specifically about the Wonder Years. It's not what I go into that album looking for. So I'm just like, I don't care. Let's skip to it must be lonely or it must get lonely, because it's a much better song. And especially the end of It Must Get Lonely, where Dan just starts fucking just belting harder, like hard as hell. I love that. Like Dan has, that's a very specific thing about sort of, I mean, not specifically about Dan, anybody can belt really, but like Dan has, three very specific registers where it's, his talk singing, and then his regular singing voice. And then it's just like,
his belting.
It's just like a step above belt, where it's almost a scream, but it's like it doesn't have any grit to it. Like there's no like vocal distortion or anything. It's just like a guy just singing really, really, really fucking loudly. And I love whenever he does that. It has a really, really strong feeling of catharsis to it, and I enjoy that a lot. Although it is. And whenever I'm trying to sing along to that, it's unpleasant to listen to me when I try to do that, because it's not good at all. I'm not a good singer, period. I'm really bad at doing that.
That reminds me, I was trying to sing a thing for my daughter last night, and anyway,
yeah,
And I cracked up, and I remembered that the entire time I was waiting outside of Boy Scouts, I was practicing throat singing. Just like, because my I can't do it now for some reason. Yeah,
I can't really do it. I don't think that's It's not even close.
It's like Stallone doing a mantra of some sort.
Yeah, I can't do it. I think it is something that you kind of need to be trained to do.
Right. I was kind of doing it after
you
a while
kind of got
in the
it.
car. Yeah.
I think it's like where your tongue is in your mouth is very important for that.
Right.
Because your mouth is I mean, whenever you sing, your mouth is your resonating chamber for that. But like it's very important for throat singing. Yeah, I can't remember where else I was going to go with that. But I'm giving this a gold because I love it.
Me too. It's a gold for what it is.
All right. I accept that. I accept that. That works for me. But yeah, if I was trying to think of just closing remarks about this, it's just, Wonder Years is my favorite band. So I enjoy this a lot.
Was it one of the first things you got into? Like got into?
The Wonder Years?
Yeah.
No. I actually did not get into the Wonder Years until I was in college.
Really?
So a couple years ago. I think it was, it was actually specifically New Year's 2015, I think. Or it would have been
New Year's Eve, New Year's Day.
It would have been New Year immediately after New Year's Day 2016.
Oh,
actually.
Okay. Wow.
And it was the first thing I listened to is I knew there was a Wonder Years song called Came Out Swinging from Suburbia. And I hadn't really listened to them before, but I was like, I know of this song. Let's have that be the first song I listened to in 2016.
Sure.
It's like, wow, this is really good. I'm going to listen to more of the Wonder Years. And then immediately I figured out like, wow, this band is really, really good. And then that summer was the first time I really like delved into The Greatest Generation. And I was like, holy shit, this is amazing. This is my favorite thing. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into the Wonder Years, was just sort of a complete happenstance based on a Jared Alonji video.
Really?
It was he made like a pop punk sort of parody comedy video. I mentioned the song Came Out Swinging, and I was like, okay. I didn't know anything about the Wonder Years. It's just like, okay, there's a band called the Wonder Years and they have that song. All right. That's a thing I know. And he has a couple episodes of Misheard Lyrics where there are a couple of Wonder Years tracks that pop up on there. So I was like vaguely aware of them, and then sort of completely by accident ended up really, really loving them. So I'm very happy with that.
Excellent.
I love when that happens. And I love this band, and I love that man, Dan Campbell, with his big beard and his big old forehead. He's got a big forehead. So anyway, next week we're probably drastically changing gears. I'm potentially waiting with bated breath here.
So I'm just picturing you meeting Dan Campbell in a hallway.
I love you.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking about Philadelphia. You know how I feel about Philadelphia. You love it because you're from there. All right.
Sure.
Sorry. Okay. Well, I was actually considering going back into the 80s and having you listen to the album Control by Janet Jackson.
Oh, wow. That was completely not what I was expecting you to say.
Right. But I'm going to save that one.
Okay.
For the time. I was also considering, of course, Captain Beefheart.
Yeah. Trout Mask replica.
Yeah. I was considering that. And I also considered some metal adjacent stuff like that was very important to me back in the 90s, like Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and things of that nature. But I think I'm going with, just because I need to do this to you.
This is fine.
I think we're going with Duck Stab, Buster and Glenn
by The Residents.
Yeah.
All right. Oh boy.
It was 2 albums and they released them together. So it's two albums, but it's really this one album.
Okay. All right. I feel like
back in 1977.
I feel like no amount of drugs I could do could prepare me for this. So going on sober is probably fine.
Yeah, drugs are good to do when you're listening to The Residents.
Drugs are good to do. Owen Bennett.
I'm making a bumper sticker, but but they're not necessary. I mean,
okay,
that sort of gives you the feeling that drugs do. Without,
the albums are the drug.
Yeah.
Okay.
So going with that, and that one is one of the more accessible kind of albums. I mean, they did some really weird shit.
What is the threshold of what constitutes accessible for The Residents?
Man, I mean, a lot of their more recent stuff, because eventually over the decades they learned how to play music, and a lot of their newer stuff is actually really, I mean, good as far as music goes. I feel,
but it is slightly less interesting because it's not as completely batshit insane,
right? And it's sort of been a theory that, the real reason they wear masks, I don't think this is right, but is possibly that it's a revolving
door of musicians.
Yeah.
Okay. That is possible. Mm-hmm. People have been saying that about Daft Punk for years.
Yeah. But really, it's just two French dudes.
It's just two French
in their
dudes.
mid-40s.
Yeah. Okay, I'm excited for this.
All right.
I'm ready for this. Like we were talking, I feel like Obscura is kind of like The Residents for death metal.
Yeah, sure.
So that sort of thing has mildly prepared me a little bit, I think. Having that sort of experience, I might be slightly more ready. For example, I think if you foisted these albums upon me, is that the right term?
Sure, that'll work.
When I was 19, I probably would have been like, what the fuck is this shit? This is not music. I'm tentatively excited for that. And then the week after, I think I'm considering forfeiting my week for the Fanatic, or we can just find time at a different part of our schedules to watch the Fanatic.
It's up to you. My suggestion was that we do it on your birthday, because your birthday is coming up, and you say you're going to sit alone and drink on your birthday, which, okay.
Yeah,
I'm
but
sure
I was going to watch The Lord of the Rings.
That's a good point.
And also Doom Eternal will be out.
That's also true.
So I want to be playing that too.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still playing. Like, Doom, it's funny. I'll play Doom for an hour and a half.
Yeah. And
then I'll have to shut it off and reboot my eyes.
Yeah.
Because holy shit.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of, I don't know if that's the sort of imagery you want to consume right before bedtime either. Just have extremely violent dreams.
Mm-hmm. I have that anyway.
But so I don't know. We'll figure out. We want to do a movie episode every non-metal March, I think.
Yeah.
That is mildly metal related. And The Fanatic, if you didn't know, is directed by Fred Durst from the band
Limp Bizkit.
One
of the greatest bands of all time.
Yes. Made the greatest album ever. Chocolate Starfish and the hot dog flavored water. In any event, we aren't there yet. So thank you for listening to us this week. And I hope you come back next week. If you're curious about how to, get alerts, subscribe to our feed on Libsyn.
What's
or
alert?
On an alert, Oh, ha. Ha 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 ha. Well, if you get alerts, you receive the orc or the Uruk-hai, from the end of Fellowship of the Ring, who kills Boromir.
Sure. Wow.
Oh, I'm such a nerd. You can God damn it. You can subscribe to our feed on Libsyn or on iTunes. You can check out our pages on Twitter and on Facebook, because we always post links to new episodes there. It will take you to the Libsyn page directly rather than in iTunes directory. So if you've got Apple product where you get your podcasts on your Apple phone, go to that and do that thing. I don't know how that works.
It's an app that says podcast.
I'm so disconnected from Apple products at this point that I'm slightly confused by that. But anyhow, thank you once again for listening to this episode of the Bronze Metalist Podcast. I'm Kayle.
I'm OJ. Congratulations.